Good evening. It is February 22nd, Monday, February 22nd. We have a quorum here with the entire board present. Tony, our attorney, is joining us by Zoom, so I remind everybody, please, when you're talking, to speak loudly into the microphone so Tony can hear us. And Tony, if you would do the same. It is 6:30 on the head. Thank you, Kelly. So we'll begin. Before we get into the agenda, I want to say a few words here about last week. So it was a very hectic week for everybody here in Trophy Club, and people lost power, people lost their patience, and I got to hand it to our staff. And I want to call them out specifically tonight for the magnificent job they did. And there are too many names here to go up and down, but everybody did their job. Not only did their job, but excelled. The guys out on the front lines, working 24/7, in some cases in 0-degree weather, snow. And we know that people's attitudes and emotions were strained, and sometimes our guys had to take the brunt of that. And that goes with the territory, we understand. But to guys like, Bert and Jason and Matt, and Mike, all those guys, what a tremendous job they all did. On the wastewater side, even though it wasn't as much on the wastewater side, Frank and Jeff and the whole crew there, outstanding job. As far as the staff here, Alan, thank you for everything that you did in leading the staff. I know we worked very, very closely with Jill and the town on a communication standpoint. From my seat anyway, it was probably the best example of communication that this mud has had in a very long time. And I call out Lori for that. She did such a great job working with Jill, working to update the website, be current. How many messages did we send? Thousands that said, don't boil water, we're okay, we didn't lose power. There were all these communications going on with the town, with Fort Worth, with the press, and we kept singing the same song again and again and again. We're Trophy Club, we're the mud, we're doing a great job, we've, no need to worry. So I think it's appropriate to absolutely commend every single person that works at this mud, and Stephen and the guys behind the scenes. What a great job. I'm proud to be a director, and I'm proud of the job you guys did last week. So thank you.
Steve.
Here.
Along the same lines, I echo everything you said, that the people did a tremendous job. It really stood out when you have neighboring towns that, people reference all the time. Oh, this city does that city does this. And Trophy Club stood out. They were running out of water, turned their water off. They had to boil water. They had all that. Trophy Club stood, on top and said, hey, you need to do what we do. We treat our water. Mike did a great job. He's been working that area. Just congratulations on a great job on that. But we do have a budget line item for employee relations, or whatever it's called. And I would recommend that Alan actually, plan a luncheon for all those people as a gratitude.
I think that's a great idea. Super. Alan, checkbook's open within reason. Okay.
I'll have to look that over.
Yeah. Well, Kelly will be looking over that. So thank you for those comments, Kevin.
Along to go a little bit further, I think we need to take up the opportunity on this situation. And, you get beat up like, oh, why spend this, why do that? And everything that we did in the past has really helped us go through this storm. No pun intended, but I think that it's an opportune time to do a case study and publish it. Tell the people, okay, this is what we did in the past to make sure we survive things like this. You can't predict them, but when they happen, it's too late to do improvements then. So this is a prime opportunity to do a case study. I was talking to a council member, in fact, it was Greg Lamont, and Everybody worked together like they're supposed to. Town, mud, got the communication out. Whether people listen to it, that's another story. But I think we need to, someone needs to do a case study that we can publish on Facebook or send it out in the mailers or whatever, so people know exactly what was done in the past that actually helped during this situation.
Kevin, I've been an advocate for as long as I've been on this board of doing a improved, better job of communications on all the things we do so well. Alan and I have had many, many conversations about this, even this week a lot. I think we can continue to do better and talk about the great things this mud does. All the way from the plant that we completed, and all that represents to this town and everything else. So Kevin, I think you're dead on, and we need to, we take enough shots when they're deserved, but we also should be patting ourselves on the back because we do a heck of a good job in so many instances. So thank you, Kevin. Okay, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any comments made to the board at this time concerning an item that is not listed on the agenda. The board will hear the comments of specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 4 minutes or the time determined by the president or presiding officer. To speak to an item, you must complete the speaker's form that includes the topics of what your statement is regarding. Citizens' comments should be limited to matters over which the board has authority. Lori, anybody for citizens' comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. Reports and updates. 1, staff reports. You can see the A through D items. I'll turn it over to Alan if there's any report out and any specific questions from the board.
A few things to let y'all know. We still continue to be persistent with the final remaining parcel owners for the Waterline Interconnect project. As of February 8th, we had heard response from them that they are working on obtaining the lender's approval. We talked about finances and the funding of the amounts provided to them. There were no issues with that. So now as soon as we can get that lender approval back and they can get their legal to sign off of it, we hope that we can start working on advertising that project for construction. Also, the Carnoustie Chimney Rock water line, Raymar Construction mobilized this week. They were supposed to mobilize last week, but the weather deterred that. So if y'all see them out and around, Chimney Rock or Carnoustie, they'll be setting up temporary water and working to relay that water line on those 2 roads. We anticipate that one substantially complete. It's a 4-month project, but they should be able to get that done probably by the end of May. Also, we continue to work on the website. One of the things that Steve mentioned was our communications. A lot of what we have, as far as the story and what has been done in the past and what we're currently trying to do, is being reviewed and built. Lori's taken the lead on that. She's got a lot of information put together, gathered, and refined. And what we're trying to do with this new website is to make it easier for people to access specific forms or information, such as if we have a freeze-thaw type situation, we have the form or we have the pamphlet there ready to go. We can quickly get to it, disseminate it out to the town staff if we need to, just make it easier to find and a little bit easier to read. So we're working on that. Another thing we're going to work on with the town is just having a communications meeting with them, just so we're all on the same page to figure out the best way that works for both entities. And looking at options such as direct communication efforts. I've already been on the phone in the last few days working on finding some direct route communications so we could send out a notice directly to people's phones or phone lines with a message that says, for specific information, please visit the website, or we are under a boil water notice, or we are not under a boil water notice. Whatever it may be, we can be very specific in our message, and it goes directly to every single customer if we so desire. And right now, it's pretty cost effective as well. So we're looking at those routes to try to improve ourselves.
So I was looking at the website today, as a matter of fact, when you were talking about that, and I know we're undergoing a massive update, if you will. So I don't know if I'm directing this at Lori or staff, but that will be all elements of the website, all pages. I mean, that's, and the one I was looking at was the history of the mud, just because I wanted to go back and look at a few things that I had forgotten, because Kevin wasn't there that I could ask him. But at the bottom of that, for example, just one example, it has the old mud board picture, just one small thing. So the assumption is you're going to look at all that?
We're getting a brand-new website.
Okay.
It will not be a WordPress website anymore. And so that's what's being built. And we're providing content and updating. But yes, there's many things that are outdated on there right now that it's just like a time waster to go fix if we're going to put it in the new. So we're catching errors as we go along and seeing things that need to be changed. We're trying to consolidate. Ellen and I have found so many pages that are very redundant and that sort of thing. So things are being updated, and
What's the time frame, or do you have one?
do not have one at this time.
I mean, months, this year?
I don't think
I'm going to assume about 2 months because we're in the process of working through the designer right now is building the site itself. And as she's reviewing the content, he's adding that into the pages. So I think originally we had talked about April being a time where we could make it go live and we could let y'all know, hey, take a look at what we've done so far. We're trying to make it a little bit cleaner, easier to access, maybe a two-click process instead of having to go multiple layers or go finding certain pieces of the puzzle. And then also a lot of the archives that she has in place already, we can just reference. So if you go to this, it'll automatically send you to the archive of that document, whatever it may be. It'll be easier to find and search.
Is there a way in that whole process, Lori, that when it's developed and ready to go, it can be sent to the board, for example, and give us a couple days or a week and say, hey, play with this, do all your, what you might normally do, kind of a beta test, if you would, just to make sure that before we hit.
That was the goal.
Okay.
That was the intent, yes.
Along the same line as beta testing, I mean, there's no better person or persons to beta test it. The board, obviously, but you enlist the help of a few citizens. They're the ones that are going to be using it. I mean, the board member, usually know what's going to be on there. But citizens are the ones that use it, so you need to get someone that, isn't involved and doesn't know, okay, I go here. You just go into, blinders on and find out. See how easy it is to pay bills, look up minutes, things of that nature, numbers to call.
If I'm not mistaken, the employee that's building our site lives in Trophy Club, correct?
we're using Form Inverness again.
Oh, same people? Yeah, but
That's a good idea,
he's one
Kevin.
person, and if you're building something, obviously you know how to use it. If you're going into it blind and say, okay, show me how you're going to pay your bill, or show me how to look up minutes, that's the better person to use.
That's a good idea. I got a neighbor buddy of mine that's just Mr., detail on anything that gets done. And he would be an example of somebody who'd be good at saying, all right, take a day and look at this thing and tell us what you think. What did we miss? Is it intuitive? Is it not? That's a great idea.
That was part of the intent. Once we had the majority we put together, we were going to send it out and say, hey, go take a look at it, see what you think.
Okay. Mr. Rose.
Yes, we received a report today on the weekly update. Brought in the cold weather information, and there was some stuff on that report that I found rather interesting. We've been averaging water usage about 1.3 million gallons a day. The peak day was on Wednesday at 2.9 million gallons a day. I don't think anyone was watering their yard Wednesday. So that's all, in my
It would
mind.
be a short water. Yeah.
That's dripping faucets. And the other thing that jumped out at me is we have a 1.75 MGD wastewater treatment plant. The average daily flow last week was 1.72. The max was 2.32 on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear any issues when I asked questions about how the plant handled all of that additional water. I made a talk with Alan. I made a comment, probably messed up the mixture with all that added water in there a little bit for processing it, but that says a lot for the way the plant's performing when you can do that. And I didn't hear any discussion about opening up an additional train or anything like that. So
If
I
I'm not
think that,
mistaken, we actually had one train down. Wasn't MBR5 down?
Bring down during the mix to all this.
yeah. So I mean, that's absolutely amazing.
I see another line item built to your point in there I hadn't seen before, snowfall. There's a new one.
I threw that one in to see if
Yeah,
anybody was
6
paying
inches.
attention.
I got, yeah.
I just read right through that one. Now, Director Carr had mentioned earlier about getting out the word about things that the board or the MUD had done previously that have benefited us. I can remember back when the discussion in the MUD was whether to buy an auxiliary power unit to have for power backup if they needed it. Well, I don't think this is the same power unit that we have out there now. It may be.
It is.
Is it? Okay, so that power unit powered the wastewater treatment plant. Says power out was out at the wastewater and lift stations due to the blackouts. So there you go. If we hadn't had our own backup power generation system at the wastewater treatment plant, we'd have really been in trouble here. Now, I understand that due to that power outage, we lost some power at some of the lift stations.
All the lift stations but one, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And we had 3 SSOs
Correct.
and 1 upstream. Was that just a case of, well, first of all, we've got, by the discussion we've already had, or what I pointed out, we had a greater flow than I would say we've probably ever had before in the MUD's history, going through those areas, and then you lose power. So did it all happen at one lift station repeatedly, or was it,
There was one lift station that had happened 2 times.
okay?
So obviously that was one of the higher flow lift stations.
Yep,
The other one was basically due to the lack of resources. So you can only move the generator around to so many sites at so many times. So again, also we stated in this is a point of opportunity for us to increase what we can do as far as resiliency. So we're going to be looking at either on-site generators or maybe another portable. We're trying to figure out exactly where we need them. So for the most part, the remaining lift stations, they didn't have a huge issue. A lot of times when power goes out, you have less water flow. You can run a vac truck around and you can keep them down and offload somewhere else. Obviously, 2 was the highest amount of flow outside of number 1, which has a generator on site already. So these are going to be something that we look at for upcoming CIP or capital improvements. And we have some money that we didn't utilize on the wastewater treatment plant. So we may reallocate that and look at trying to go ahead and get some other resources in place.
that number 1 lift station generator came up and run?
Yes.
Well, fantastic, because I'm sure that generator's been there for an extended period of time.
The portable one we just bought not too long ago.
Yeah, but,
And then the big one that you were referencing, we actually got a good deal from Katrina. It was a rooftop unit, wasn't it, Mike?
It was, so when we did the upgrade to the wastewater plant, we actually added another generator also to the plant.
Right.
So we actually do have 2, but the original one that we bought is still there.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
Powers, but we do PMs on those, they have exercisers on them, so they run every week.
Every year we budget for a full load bank test so you can run
Great.
it under the same type of scenario you would in an emergency situation.
so the answer to the citizens that may be watching this is not only did we buy the equipment before, but we've maintained the equipment, exercised the equipment so that it was able to function when we needed it. And that prevented having significant issues environmentally in the area.
Anything of that cost and used in emergency situations, you always have preventive maintenance, and you run
Yep.
them just to make sure they're still, running. You don't want to go to turn it on when power goes out and go, uh-oh, we got a problem here.
Yep, not the time to find it. Once again, well done, staff. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions regarding staff reports? Okay. Consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Number 2, consider and act to approve consent agenda. You see A through C, which are January 2021 combined financials, January 18, 2021 regular meeting minutes, and February 6, 2021 special meeting minutes. Any issues about the consent agenda?
And I talked to Lori earlier, we didn't get any video, right? We just got the minutes? Okay.
Okay. There's no questions. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda A through C.
Second.
Kevin seconds, okay. Kelly, motions to approve A through C. Kevin second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, show your hands. It is unanimous. Regular session, just a check, Tony, can you still hear us? Are you okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay, thank you. 3, regular session, discussion and possible action regarding the impact of weather conditions on February 2021 water usage and potential modification of the winter averaging determination for wastewater service based on same. Bill, I think you might have brought this up, so I'll turn it to you.
I did. As I looked at, as I mentioned a little while ago, the drastic amount of increased usage of water that citizens are doing to keep their pipes from freezing, I didn't think that that was an accurate reflection when you consider that the purpose of winter averaging is to determine what you would normally use. And so I didn't think that increase would be considered normal. So I had brief discussion with Alan about possibilities on this. My thought is, and let me make a motion and not get a second, speak the motion. I move that for the purposes of April's winter average calculations, a customer's February water usage shall be no greater than the largest amount they used in either December 2020 or January 2021. If I get a second, I'll talk to it.
I'll second it, just for
Okay,
discussion.
Kevin seconds, discussion. Kevin?
Myself, I think a fair way would be, the storm came after the 7th of February. There's 28 days this year in February. So if you take the first week of February and you multiply it by 4, you have an average. Simple.
But we only read the meters once a month.
Excuse me?
We only read the meters monthly.
There wasn't any storm in high usage up to February 7th. If you want to take the 21st or whenever you last read them, that's fine too. Whatever, you just multiply it by 4, for the days. Whatever days it is. I'm sure it's going to be.
But we only read the meters once a month.
That's what I'm saying. You read it, what day do you read it? Like 21st, 22nd?
I think what Bill's leaning towards is you're not gonna really know what their usage is just for that 1 week.
Unless we specifically went into all 4,886 counts and broke it out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Either way, you still wouldn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying, to go in and do a data dump on it and then do it that way?
I think you'd have to
I mean,
pull-
you're doing the similar to it by looking at last 2 months. You still have to look up that information.
Well, that information would already be filed in the system in the monthly readings. And so what I've done is I've said, what the motion does is it accepts the fact that, what it does is it puts a data point in there that you won't be charged more for February's usage. This is for winter average calculations. You're going to pay for the water. I ran the water. I had 3 dripping or running. I'm going to pay for that water.
Right.
But I don't think it should go against I don't think it should go against winter average. So what I've done is said, I take a look at December and January, which I know were not impacted by the event, and just said we'll take the highest of those 2 months. And then if your February usage for winter averaging will not be higher than the highest of either one of those 2 months, which for me, mine was 2 in December, 3 in January. So my February will be a 3 rather than a 4 or a 5.
You're saying it's going to be the equivalent of the highest of the 2 months.
No higher than.
No higher, but
It could be less. I mean, if a customer did not run their faucets and they were away or something, it may end up being less than either their January or February. That's why I've worded worded
Oh,
it
they,
the way
they
it
were
would
in,
be.
I mean, the people didn't run their faucets, have broken pipes. And they got a real high usage there. But if you're gonna do that, why not just take the average of the first 2 months?
Well, the problem is, that would be a possibility.
I think that's the easiest way.
That would be a whole lot simpler for
But
staff.
for the staff?
Sir.
Well,
Yeah.
then,
So what staff, I talked to the utility building this morning, we discussed this, because we are gonna start getting some calls in, to help out. And our scenario on this, I thought would be the best thing, is just take the first 2 months and
Okay.
make that what we're gonna calculate this year off
You
of.
basically would void February
void
from
out
winter
February.
average.
I don't have
Is there an
a
echo
problem with
room
that.
here?
I don't have a problem with that either.
And this would prevent, we can run that through an automatic system, we would just remove out of the calculations, and that way we don't have to individually go through each and every
It's
account.
easier on the staff, it's a fair way to do it. And, we have a motion on the table, so we have to vote on
Yeah,
that.
so you want to amend your motion?
Let's just vote it down and make a new motion.
Okay.
This is Tony.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? If it turns out somebody has lower usage during February, are you precluding that from being counted? Whether it be they're out of town, or they felt the need, they didn't need the drip, or hopefully they didn't do it, but they filled up a pool last month. Are you precluding the possibility that somebody has lower usage this month?
So
Yeah,
could you
that-
not include, if it's beneficial, to include February, or February is lower and it's gonna lower the 2-month average, and you would use February in the calculation? Is that
Which
throw a
goes
glitch
back
in
to,
things?
which goes back to Bill's original statement of not exceeding
No,
the highest of month,
I,
December,
I
January.
think the 2-month thing is the simplest way, and just do it that way.
Yeah, if we're going to take a look at February, we would have to tell the system to include February, and then we'd have to look at each account individually and then recalculate by hand. That's the only way to do it through the
Okay.
system.
If it's staff intensive, I don't have a problem with,
Yeah. Can we call for a vote?
Sure. So we're going to vote on the first motion, or
Yeah.
you're not? Okay,
The
so,
only motion.
the only motion.
well, the only motion, there's going to be another motion. So Bill's first motion, you want to read that one more time, Bill?
Yeah, the
just
first
everybody
motion
understands?
was moved for the purposes of this April's winter average calculations of customers' February water usage shall be no greater than the largest amount they used in either December 2020 or January 2021.
Okay, do we have a
Yeah.
second?
I second.
We had
Oh, you second, okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor, show your hand. Motion that's fails, no one approved that motion.
You have to take
Now-
the negative
You
votes.
have to do the other.
Okay, so let's go back, Bill. Do
No, you
want-
have to take the negative votes.
Okay, so those,
Opposed.
all those opposed to that motion? All 5 opposed, thank you.
Okay, I think I can do this one then. I move that for the purposes of this April winter's average calculations, a customer's February water usage shall not be entered into the calculation.
I'll second.
Okay, so the April calculation, February's calculation for 2021 will not be entered into the calculation. That was the motion, seconded by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor, show your hands. It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 4, consider and take appropriate action regarding the fire department personnel salary adjustments. I think I'll take this one on. It came directly to both Alan and I. There is an attachment, if you have seen the attachment, for an increase in the fire department wages. It is broken out by job description, by position. And this particular issue was discussed, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago at Town Council, and actually approved by Town Council. But since we have half the budget, if you will, on the personnel side, it is now coming before us. If you look at the numbers, I believe it is about a $30-some thousand increase to the current budget that was approved. Let me pull that up. While I'm pulling that up, did everybody get a chance to look at it? Any discussion about it?
I have a motion, but
I'm a big opponent. Yeah, if you want to make a motion, then we'll have discussion.
okay. I move to approve the fire department salary adjustments as set forth in the attachment with this package and fund those increases from the non-GASB fire department reserves.
I
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Bill to approve the number in the attachment, seconded by Director Chapman, Vice President Chapman, not to be used out of GASB funds, correct?
To be used, to fund those increases from the non-GASB fire department reserves.
Correct. Okay. Discussion.
Number one, I'm not a big fan of surveys and comparing towns to towns. I mean, a town should operate within its means and what they need, not compare it to a larger or smaller or whatever. That's the first thing. My question on this is if you increase the salaries, is there going to be another increase built into the budget that we're getting ready to do, or?
I'll let staff answer that. My assumption would be this will be an amendment to the current budget, right? And then as we approach the budget discussions for next year, that's going to be, if I'm looking at Stephen, the new baseline, is that correct,
Any
Stephen?
potential increases that the town would be requesting for would be proposed in the upcoming budget process.
That's correct.
I'm not aware that they are going to only hold them to this percentage increase and not be including something in next year's budget.
This is Tony. A couple of questions. Was there a salary increase reflected in last year's budget that was approved by the parties?
No, it was not.
Well, they had
There's an increase, yeah.
They had their merit raises.
Well, that
part
was
of
for the
budget process.
baseline budget for the year, right?
Yes,
This is, Tony, a new, not only proposed, but approved by council, increase to the fire staff?
Yeah, I'm kind of going towards the timing of it. If there was an increase last budget that was approved, why is they proposing this interim increase as opposed to just next year?
Because the town, one of their directives for town staff was to compare Trophy Club's fire department to other entities and come up with a salary compensation study. And with that information provided to council, they made it the decision to go ahead and increase the baseline salary of these employees.
Okay. Saying that, if they did a comparison, did they do, how many runs do you make? How many fires do you have? That's my whole big thing about surveys. It's not apples to apples. It's, apples to oranges, where Trophy Club is 4 square miles, basically. Okay, they have very little runs compared to a Colleyville, a Grapevine, a Hearst, or anything like that. I mean, I was playing softball one time. I saw Hearst trucks. They didn't even stay in the building. They were constantly going in and out. Our guys are, staying there, keeping the equipment up and things like that. So the runs are different. Again, in the middle, you're saying that there was no increase to the fire staff in last year's budget, the one we're working off right now.
No, there was.
No cost of living or anything.
Well, there was an increase. We're saying there
Well, there was
was.
an increase in salary.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a yes or no. Yes,
Yes, there was
Okay.
an increase
So
for
there
this
was.
year's.
So as Tony just stated, now you're giving them another increase. Why?
Well, the way that I understand it is, yes, there was an increase. There was a budgeted salary increase, but they did a analysis. Now, I understand you're not necessarily agreeing with the analysis, but there was analysis done, a snapshot in time, if you will, of all salaries versus a comparative set, and whether you agree with the comparative set, but that's what was done, and it was determined that almost universally, all of the firefighters, staff, chief, all the positions you see were underpaid. And their percent adjustment is not universal. It's anywhere from, as I'm looking at this, 2%, actually 0 for one, 2% to 10%. So it was taking into account where they fell within the midpoint range of the comparative set.
Yeah, the 10%'s overtime, so I mean, you can't throw
Oh,
that
right,
number in
good,
there.
yeah.
And the 0 is for an admin person, that's a town person anyway. But again, they're not comparing apples to apples on the jobs and the runs they do. People come to Trophy Club and get experience. A lot of people come in here, trainers, some people come in with a lot of experience. There's been some guys down there for a long time. I mean, 20-plus years. But I don't agree with these surveys. I mean, they come here, they work for a certain rate. You know, if they don't like it, then go to another firehouse where, guess what, you're going to be working and running, you know, calls all day long, and you aren't going to be able to operate another business or something like that on your days off. You're going to rest. So that's my 2 cents worth. I mean,
Okay? Bill?
I have one question about this. I was wondering, and I didn't go back and pull up the ILA, but I had the feeling that this was a little bit of a surprise because I didn't realize it was coming. And I don't know if there was any coordination with the staff or anything because as in my motion, the increase is going to come out of reserves because we didn't fund for an increase in this mid-year. And we hold the fire department basically to be a center for costs and and payments. So that in itself creates a little bit of concern. But here again, having expressed that concern, I understand the background for it, and I also understand Director Carr's position on that particular item. But from my perspective and my background, the number of runs you make, perhaps it affects your risk, but you're still there for that particular duration of time. And so based on that duration of time, you're equivalent to another organization.
yeah, another situation is the fire captain or the chief, he just came on board, not even a year ago. Is that correct? Okay, so and to me, if I went and got a job and they say, okay, it's going to pay $200,000 a year, and then I go back 6 months, I don't really, I think I need to get a raise. Wait a minute, you just accepted $200,000, you thought that was all fair, and now 6 months later or something, you're asking for an increase. So should he get an increase, or it looks like it's across the board? And again, it goes to not comparing. And who did this study? Did anyone here see the numbers or comparative to
Well-
what the other fire stations do? How many substations do they have?
All that I showed and shared with you and the board, I believe it was last month, was the numbers that they shared with us, not these numbers, the actual numbers, but here's South Lake, here's, all the different things.
Yeah.
I'm just answering
Yeah,
your question. That's all that I have seen.
Well, I think for me to vote and be the representative of the MUD residents and customers, I should say, I need to see numbers. I can't have a blank checkbook out and go, how much you need? And didn't we give money to them above and beyond our half or our portion last year? Like maybe 70,000 or something?
What was that? I'm not,
We had capital that we bought, capital outlays that we bought. That was for the exhaust system for 74,000.
What was it?
The
The
exhaust,
exhaust system that's on there for the firehouse.
They never got the exhaust system?
No, it's on there.
Huh?
That's what they did last year. And
No,
that,
but
and then
when I was on the board, we were talking about that. Lasky was here telling us we need the exhaust system. That was
it finally
5
happened.
years ago.
It finally
went through, and
happened.
We paid for it through our hit, which is part of the IOLA that we cover, the capital outlays. And then we also did the Jaws of Life.
And how
Tools,
so we
excavation
paid
tools.
70,000 for it. Did the town pay anything for it?
No, that's on us. It's on our books.
Okay, so if we, decide to give them everything, that's money that is out of our part. I thought the budget was supposed to be 50/50.
No,
No, they-
it's all out of the fire, this, as I made the motion, this is all out of the fire system funds, out of that box.
The 70 plus that was paid came out of what's been remaining from taxes that were collected over the decades that were there. That's what that money is paid
I mean,
for.
when we signed the agreement, it was the budget, they create we pay
Yeah.
half of it.
That's
Whether they
for-
need uniforms, whether they need trucks or whatever. You know,
Correct,
we-
but the outlay does state any capital outlays, any capital assets come strictly from the MUD. They don't actually split that portion. That's the way it's written up.
On this topic, back to this topic, is I cannot vote for something I don't see the backup for.
Okay? I want to address something that Bill mentioned before we go to the vote, if there's no further discussion. Your comment, Bill, was, how did kind of this come to us? From my perspective, and I think Alan can chime in here, this came to us as a, hey, this is coming down the road type thing, discussion, if you will, and we discussed this in our January board meeting. What then happened was, this issue, this item was voted on at a council meeting, and I don't have the exact date. I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Alan will find the exact date.
January 25th.
January
They had their
25th
budget
council
workshop.
meeting, where they approved their portion of it.
Yeah.
The ILA agreement, and I don't have the exact wording in front of me, maybe Stephen does, but it says that if there's an amendment to the budget, a proposed amendment to the budget, that needs to be talked about and brought forward and discussed. And that didn't quite happen.
Yeah,
It,
okay.
it was approved, and here we are. So I guess my question as a board member that I'll be voting on is, was this done exactly by protocol in terms of process and procedure? The answer is no. But is it the right thing to do for these firefighters, given the data we have? I know Kevin has an issue with that, but I'm going to be looking at the issue of, is it the right thing to do to approve this, even though there was kind of out of process, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's my decision tree.
What data do we have other than salary ranges?
That other sheet that I think I provided before, which was all of the information of where each individual fell within the mid-range as the comparative set to the 10 or 11 cities that was out there. So you should have had that from the last meeting. That was what was used to determine this output.
Who did the study or survey?
I don't
Any
know.
firm or
I don't know that,
like
Kevin.
a fox in the chicken house?
I don't know the answer to that. Any further discussion? Okay, so Bill, you had made the motion, and just to clarify, the exact amount of money that we're talking about in the motion is $31,776.63. That's the exact amount. I believe, Mark, you seconded that motion, correct? Okay. So you have the motion, not to exceed 31,776 for the firefighter additional salary increase, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, show your hands. There are 4 in favor, Bill, Mark, myself, Kelly. All those opposed? Kevin is opposed. Motion passes. Okay, executive session item 5, pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board may consult with its attorney in executive session on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly reflects the Open Meetings Act, or to seek advice of counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated legal litigation or settlement offers. A, consult with legal counsel regarding the existing interlocal cooperation agreement for administration of fire protection services between the district and the town of Trophy Club, and seek legal advice regarding the potential renewal, termination, a modification, or replacement thereof. It is 7:15, and we'll enter into executive session.
Should I stay on this connection?
You can mute yourself, Tony. You can mute yourself, Tony, and I'll call you from the conference phone
Okay.
on your cell phone.
Okay? Okay, we're good? All right, it is 8:06, and we are back in regular session. There was item 6. There is no action items coming out of executive session. Item 7, items for future agendas. Anybody have any thoughts, comments? Okay.
We maybe follow up on the suggestion I had, the case study, and bring that up.
Okay,
And
what's the,
you can leave it up to Alan too. We don't need to see it, but I'd like to see what they're proposing, just to document all the good things.
so Alan, can you bring back the detail? I don't know that there's any more than what we had, but that's the request.
So are you wanting for someone to perform a case study? Is that what?
Yeah, just write, I mean, if someone can't do it here, then just have a writer do it, write up a case study that we can give to our customers to, explain what we've done in the past few years and how it impacted the storm for
So
other
instead
cities.
of making it another agenda item, let me do some research and see what we can find, and then once we get some information, then we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's not hard to do a case study. Just get the facts and someone that can write it together.
That sounds something like an insurance agent would do,
That's kind of
case study.
Not right now because I'm really busy.
All right, next meeting is set for Monday, March 15th. It is 8:08. We are adjourned.
Everyone.